Okay, so we're back, and this week we're going to be talking about where we left off last week with the unclouded, more advanced licks, things like that, intermediate licks. And we're going to be talking about playing. As you can tell, I'm playing in the key of A minor here, or not A minor, but A flat. I've got my capo on the first fret, and I'm not sure exactly what kind of capo you use, Levi. I can't remember if it's a clamp-on or for an adjustable one. But what I usually do is I'll typically move it to where I need it to, and I'll place it just behind the fret, and then start tightening up to where it's not going to move. So I just put it right there, and then for an adjustable tension one, in case you do have a clamp on and you would like to get one of these kinds one of these days, what I recommend you do is I usually just typically play the D and the G string, and I start tightening until the buzz goes away. Extra little short twist, just like that, because those two strings are typically the most problem areas you run into, as far as I found, is when it comes to buzzing. So today we'll just go over playing Unclouded Day, what we've learned so far in the different keys of A flat, A, and B flat, because you need to get used to playing and not relying so heavily on your dot markers as being where they are and set in stone. Because once you start moving that capo up and down the neck, then your dot markers kind of reset themselves every single time. So you don't want to rely on that. You kind of want to rely on visually how far of a stretch you have, or if it's like a whole step, which is this far of a stretch, two fret stretch, kind of like we had in the first shape. I'm not relying on where my dots are. Now I'm relying on what this shape looks like. Okay, so we want to get used to where we can visualize what the shapes look like, as opposed to where all the dots are. So let's play a little bit of what we've learned so far, incorporating all the the little shapes like we've learned, like so that one, and I think we went over maybe this. And then we'll talk about another shape that's really popular with bluegrass and everything else, and that's the pentatonic scale, and how to maybe use some of that in Unclouded Day. So I'm just going to start, So that's just some of the basic shapes that we've been playing, and that is, obviously I just went to, didn't really go to these other two strings, or other two notes. Obviously I could have if I wanted to. Or I could just go straight to. Come up with as many combinations as you can with those shapes, and obviously I could come down here and the minute I get in that bluesy sound, I'm obviously going to aim for the third fret on the D and the G string. I can slide those up. Okay. And so get a good feel of what that feels like first, and then we'll move on from there. We need to move on to obviously A. So we're just going to do the same thing, move it up. A is a very popular key for bluegrass especially. once again, automatically when I change this key, I can hear. I can hear it within the context of that. And basically, you're just doing the same thing. Second fret. This now becomes a new second fret because we now have a new nut, so to speak. So this is the second fret. Well, unison slide we talked about, I think. So I can just start playing that here and see what I can come up with. And it might be good, instead of just starting to play it from the beginning, go ahead and start off with a rhythm, because that's what you're going to be doing anyway. When you're playing along with people, you're going to have a steady rhythm going, and you need to be able to transition from rhythm playing to lead playing. That's very important. Obviously, if you're playing by yourself, and even when I play with other people, I typically like the sound of playing the rhythm along with that solo, instead of just going. Obviously, there's a lot of space to fill there if you're just holding on that D note. So I'm continually finding that I'm strumming while I'm playing these melodies. Just to fill in that space and just add more to that. And if you find you land on something that sounds good, remember what that is. Try to remember where you're at and what position you're in, as far as like where you are in relation to what fret number you're on. 1, 2, 3. So this was on the 3rd fret, D and G string. Okay, so you can kind of remember what you did as much as possible and try to repeat that. So let's go one more higher, and we'll practice this in B flat. So now I'm just going to go play whatever I would typically play. Maybe you can get some ideas from this. Once again, use the little wheel cog gear icon thing in the bottom right hand corner of this video on YouTube, and you can slow this part down if you need to. But basically, I'm just going to be playing what I would, anything I think of to play on this, okay, so that you can get an idea of how up to speed it would sound. So every now and then I would go back and forth between the main melody and fancy lick. So we would just put in bits and pieces of the main melody and of the fancy licks that we could come up with. Now, obviously, I could do this again and come up with something totally different. I could work on these lower strings, get myself used to that, because what happens is you find yourself getting into a rut, and you're comfortable there, so you don't want to move on and move outside that comfort zone, and you tend to not remember parts like you tend to not remember lower things and things like that you've learned. So it makes a big difference to kind of force yourself to think, what all can I do here? What are the endless combinations that I can do in this song. That way you're always keeping yourself fresh and not stale sounding all the time. Okay, so let's go over this shape that I've been talking about, and we're going to go back to the key of G for this. And this is the Minor Pentatonic Scale shape that every guitar player needs to know for sure. It's one of the most popular scale shape there is. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of show you, I'm going to insert it in here, and then parts of it anyway, and then we'll go over what it is. So we'll start again playing the song in G. 1, 2. Okay, obviously you probably lost the melody, and I kind of did too. I was just trying to think of all possible combinations within that scale that I could. A lot of it is back and forth type things. Okay, so it's all different combinations that you can think of. Now, once again, as I said last time, the scale shape is basically you're on the 3rd fret. The dots in this case help you because of where you're at in G, but like I said, once you move it up, it's going to be a half step higher every time. So you always want to think in terms of frets and not necessarily dots. Okay, so we have the 3rd fret, and then our pinky is going to stretch out here onto the 6th fret. Our 3rd fret is our G, our root note. We always want to land most of the time on a G note at the end of a lick. There's a G. There's a G there, okay? So if you think of this as the same shape as this, that's our major sounding thing. And then this is the minor pentatonic shape. We're going to come up half a step from here to here and use the pinky to the 1st finger. And just as these two shapes were the same, this is going to be the same on the B string as it was on the E string. Okay? And instead of landing on this 4th fret like we were doing with this major sounding thing, we're going to land on the 5th fret with our ring finger on the G string. Now, the next couple strings are going to be this same whole step shape. In other words, 2 frets from the 5th to the 3rd fret. G string, D string, and A string. Okay, so far there's a pattern emerging. We have these whole plus half step. In other words, whole, 2 frets plus a half step equals 3 frets on the B and the E string. Okay, so you can just mess around with that to get used to that shape. The next 3 strings is going to be this same shape, which is really cool because you got a lot of stuff that you can play around with from the 3rd to the 5th fret. Okay, so I'm just messing around with those 2 frets with different combinations of picking and hammer-ons, pull-offs, things like that. And that's up to you to kind of experiment with. Add a hammer-on, or a pull-off, add a hammer-on, or do all picking. Pull-off, hammer-on. So you can do different kinds of things and see what you can come up with. But the last string is going to be the same shape as the first 2 here. Okay, so we have... Notice I didn't end on this note. I ended back on the G, because it wouldn't sound right if we ended on this note here. So there's a G. Here's a G right here on the D string when you get to that with your ring finger. And then... Okay. Now, anytime you get a full scale shape like this, I think so far this is the first time we're encountering a full scale shape. The last couple times we've got part of a scale shape there, and then we have that's part of a scale shape, but we continue that on. Okay, so we can kind of say that we got one there, but once again, there's a lot of this covered by open strings. So now we're getting into the whole idea of closed position here, because there's no open notes, it's all closed. We're all playing them on the fretboard. And it's a good exercise for your picking hand to start going down, up on every string. Down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. Okay? And then when you get to that, keep that down, up thing. Down, up, down, up, down, up. But when you come back down, this last note's an upstroke. So we're going to come back down, but now we're going to encounter that kind of inside the string thing. Where we're going to be pushing down on one string and then up on the string above that. Okay, so that gives not only trains our hand to get used to that shape, but it also trains our picking hand to feel the distance between each string, and kind of that's one reason why so many people can play that are experts can play without looking at their picking hand, because they've been playing up and down so many times and get an idea of where their pick is. It just becomes automatic. And these things where you span scale shapes that span the entire width of the neck here really help out a lot with getting, memorizing the distance between the strings with your picking hand, and obviously having more control over that. Okay, so what I would recommend you do as far as practicing this is I would practice just the first half of the scale shape. Okay, so practice that. This is what I would refer to as box 1 of the minor pentatonic scale shape, or box 1 of the pentatonic scale shape in general, but definitely the minor pentatonic scale shape. There's 5 in total, but we're only going to focus on 1 for right now. Now, instead of running the whole thing up and down, I would, you want to kind of switch it up so that you don't get bored with it. So what I would do is go just to half of that. In other words, the last note on the D string. And then come back down. Okay. Sometimes you end on the low note, sometimes you on the high note. And you practice that. Once again, we're not only training our picking hand, but we're training this hand to memorize, use that muscle memory to develop what the shape feels like. That first one's a little awkward because you got all this hand that has to kind of move up to make that stretch, but it's worth it if you get it down. And my thumb is just behind there. I'm not sure if you can see that, but it's kind of wrapping around. I've not got my whole palm against the neck. I've still got a little bit of a distance between my thumb. There's a little bit of a gap right here between these two fingers here, the finger and the thumb. So, and another thing you can do from there is just do hammer-ons, and then come back with pull-offs. And once again, a pull-off, you kind of have to flick that a little bit. You kind of grasp it with your finger, just give it a flick. Now notice I'm not even picking anything, and you can hear that. But when we pick it and flick that note, we pick and flick there, the string already has momentum when we're picking it, so this flick kind of helps sustain that momentum, sustain that note. Okay. And try to just come up with all kinds of different combinations with that. Maybe you can start, instead of going up and forward and going backwards when you go back down, maybe you can go backwards up. And when you're coming back down, make sure that the notes are going forward, in other words, ascending. So all different combinations that you can think of. We can go up and then back down. Okay. We can go 1, 2, 3, 4. Start on this same fret. So we can kind of repeat the second string there. So we can do all kinds of different combinations with that and work on that as well. So now we can repeat. Okay, and then once you get comfortable with that, do the second half. So now we're going to start with the 3rd fret of the G string. Now this is where it's a little different. We got this stretch right after this G string. We've got these 2 strings with the pinky shape here. Okay, now once again we can do the same things. We can do hammer-ons, pull-offs. We can do repeats. We can, as we're moving forward, we can descend the notes. Okay, and we can ascend the notes going backwards. That's where that kind of comes from, is when I'm descending. Now what I'm doing there is descending and then descending from here down. So I'm descending all the way, up and down. Now I can do it the reverse way. I can go, I can upsend all the way. And there's our root note. If you want to, you can throw that note in there too. So there's all kinds of combinations you can come up with for that. And you also want to, don't forget hammer-ons and pull-offs, you can do slides. What I would typically have you do is slide to the 5th fret with the finger that's supposed to be on the 5th fret. In other words, if this finger's got to be on this 5th fret, I would slide with that ring finger from the 3rd to the 5th. So I would slide from the note that we started with. For example, if I'm up here, I would slide to this fret, maybe from 1 fret or 2 frets back. Okay, and then from here I can slide into the 6th fret of the pinky using the pinky. Now that's supposed to be ring finger. See, and then. That's a little tougher going backwards, but you get the idea. All kinds of different things you can do there, and that you can slide to the 1st fret. That really gives you, when you're sliding into notes like this, it sets you up to be in position for the next note you want to play. Okay, so once you get to this G string, a good little thing to do there is lift up, hit that open G, and then go from the 3 to 4 and let go. That's down, up, down, up, down, up, down, down. So everything's down, up until you get that open string. Down, up. That open string's an upstroke. And then 2 downs. And then you can add up. Okay? So let's put some of this, scale shape into Unclouded A. You'll very rarely see guitar players, especially bluegrass guitar players, use the full entire scale shape, but it's still good to know that and practice it that way. Most of the time they use what I call in my Bluegrass Guitar Essentials course, short scale shapes. They'll use just parts of the scale shape to make their playing even faster. But you can just practice as many combinations as you can think of. Try to play around with slides. And you notice how I stayed on the same note 2 or 3 different picks. That's really cool too. You can combine some of these scale shapes. The little thing we did up here, when I slid up, I was actually sliding into the first position of this, box shape here. always transition from the, if you're going up, you transition from the 3rd fret A string, and if you're coming down, when you landed here, you would slide back down from the 5th to the 3rd. I hope this makes a lot of sense. I'm trying to try not to be too hard. I know you're kind of a not really beginner level, but stuff like this is new to you, so I'm just trying to make it and explain it as best as I can. So I hope you enjoyed this lesson. That's basically what I want you to do, is practice this in those 3 keys as well as G, and find a way to incorporate that minor scale shape there, that pentatonic scale shape, into your playing. Okay. All right. So I've just recently sent you an invoice, and I haven't heard anything back, so I can only assume that if I don't hear anything back, if I don't, receive payment for the month, then you no longer wish to take lessons. If that's the case, then this will be the last lesson that you will receive. So I hope that's not the case. Hope you want to continue learning. I know you've had some great feedback from your friends and people like that, saying how much you've improved, and I really hope that you would like to still learn more bluegrassy, country type, songs. But if not, that's okay. That's understandable. That happens. But at least you've got a wealth of information just from these lessons to kind of help you along the way. The important thing is, don't give up. Even if you're not taking lessons with me anymore, keep playing, keep practicing, because you will get better. If you just take things a piece at a time and practice as much as you can, you'll definitely get better. So thanks so much for watching, and I hope to see you again soon. If not, God bless, and you have a great day, and keep playing that awesome bluegrass. All right, Levi? Take it easy, and I'll see you hopefully next time.